Hello, welcome back to the Wall of Unusual. I'm your host, Chris, the Keeper of the Unusual, and welcome back to another episode. Now, this is a very special episode for me because this is going to be my first three-part episode I'll be doing. And I'll be doing a three-part episode on haunted dolls. Now, I'll be doing the first two on actual dolls themselves, and the third part, I have two very special guests. I can't wait to for that episode. Actually, I have a guest too for the second part. But I can't wait for you guys to listen to this because I've been wanting to do this for so long. Now, the first doll I'll be talking about in the Haunted Dolls saga, let's just say, is a doll that was made famous by originally Ed and Lorraine Warren. If you guys don't know who they are, they're kind of famous within the paranormal circles. They have their own institute. I believe their brother-in-law, Frank Zappa, runs their estate now. He runs the paranormal and Lorraine Warren Paranormal Museum, I think it's called, but now it's shut down. And this is where the very famous doll sits. I'm talking about Annabelle. Now, Annabelle has some very interesting history to it and mystery. I'll be going over the doll's origins in the first few parts of the episode. Then I'll be going over my thoughts on the doll itself and how, some stuff that people have said they have interacted with and all that. And also a recent story that the doll was involved in. Now, this doll was given by a mother to her daughter, Donna, in the 1970s as a graduation gift. Now, according to the story, Donna was a nursing student. She just graduated, so her mother decided to give her a gift of a Raggedy Ann doll. Now, Donna was very excited. She got this doll. She lived with a roommate, and that roommate had a boyfriend. And they decided, this is a cool doll, so they just kept it on the couch. Now, it got to the point where it's not clear when all this creepy stuff started to happen with the doll. Ed and Lorraine Warren never talked about it. It was just said that when they would come home from class or even their shift from the hospital, the doll would move on its own. Like they would put it on the couch. When they would come home, the doll would be in another room. They said that the doll would move its hands up and down and all that. And they had all this creepy stuff with it. When the doll started moving on its own, I believe it was Donna's boyfriend or the roommate's boyfriend checked to make sure that no one was breaking in and trying to screw with them, like moving this doll around the apartment they were in. So it is also said that they would be walking around the apartment and they would find scraps of parchment paper that would say, "Help me." And it got to the point where all this creepy stuff started happening. One story is that I believe the roommate's boyfriend was asleep in the same room that the doll was in. As he was sleeping, he had a nightmare that this doll was climbing down from the chair that it was on, climbed up onto the bed, and it was on his chest and was trying to strangle him, but the doll has plush hands, it has no fingers or anything. And he woke from this nightmare, and he's like, oh my god, like, that was creepy. And trust me, I've had those nightmares where it was like, I wake up in like a panic and shock, and you're like trying to get your bearings, you're all scared. But for him, he looked down on his chest because he felt some burning, and he saw 3 scratch marks. Now, according to paranormal circles, 3 scratch marks or 3 knocks is the mocking of the Trinity, which some demonic entities will do to mock, the Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, at this point, Donna and her roommate decided, you know what, we're going to bring a psychic medium in and see what's going on. So the psychic medium came and did her stuff with the doll and said that this doll was inhabited by a ghost of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, where this girl actually died on the property where their apartment building sat. And just to treat this doll like any other doll. So they just started treating it like it was an actual person. But it got to the point where a lot more other creepy stuff started happening where it became way too much. Apparently, according to the story that was told, the doll would they would see the doll walk on its own. They would open the door to the apartment and see the doll just standing there upright on its own, move its arms, and walk away. So they decided, you know what, we need to see what's going on with this. So they called a priest that they knew named Father Higgins. Now, Father Higgins looked at the doll and said, okay, this is something more serious. This is something more devastating. So I need to call my supervisor. And I kid you not, guys, this is the actual name of the priest. I double checked this. His name is Father Cookie. Father Cookie came, and then Father Cookie was, I believe, friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren, so he contacted the Warrens. Now, when Ed Warren was actually asked about the Annabelle case when he was still alive, he said this, quote, "Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and that is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated a doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to pretty much attach itself to a person. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll. It was looking to possess a human host, pretty much a possession that he was getting to." So Ed and Lorraine Warren came. They talked to them, Donna and her roommate, and said, like, listen, this doll is dangerous. This is a demonic entity, which is something that is pretty much from hell, that is like a poltergeist, where it's non-human, where there's actually a lot of famous poltergeist cases around that involved houses. Like, if you look at, I did an episode of the Amityville horror case that was considered a poltergeist case, but if you want to listen to that episode, go ahead, actually cover it somewhat. Now, he said, okay, we're taking this doll, and an exorcism was done by Father Cookie, and Ed and Lorraine Warren took the doll. Now, here's my one point that kind of like puts a little bit of a skeptical thing in this story. And again, I believe in the paranormal. I'm open-minded to it. It's good to have a bit of skepticism when it comes to, the paranormal itself. Now, it said that an exorcism was done by Father Cookie. Now, from what I understand it, in order for an exorcism to be done on a person or even a place, you have to get permission from I'm going off my denomination, the Roman Catholic Church. So that means that you have to gather evidence. You have to send it to, I believe, I don't know if it gets sent to the Vatican or the Archdiocese, wherever you are. They do their own little investigation, and they say, okay, we're going to send an exorcist down, or you guys are good, or if you have an exorcist that works within your church, they'll come do the exorcism. It's a very long and tedious process. I believe there was a case in the U.S. where a family moved into this house, and used to be a funeral home, and had a mortuary down in the basement, and their son, according to the story, became possessed by a entity that was in the home. And when I actually remember watching this case on TV, it took a while for the family to actually get a representative from the Vatican to come down to verify their findings, to make sure that the kid wasn't suffering from some type of mental illness. And then after that, an exorcism was done of the home. So for Ed Warren to say to Father Cookie, hey, just do this exorcism, blah, 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 and him going, all right, no worries, and just do it, kind of puts a bit of a skeptical thing to me for the story. Now, he took the doll. Ed and Lorraine Warren took the doll. Now, according to them, on their way home, their brakes started to fail several times. They almost got into a few crashes, and it got to the point where Ed pulled out a bottle of holy water from his bag and just splashed it on the doll. And all of a sudden, the problems that they were experiencing with their car just disappeared. So, according to them, when they got home, first they put it in their living room, and that's when they started seeing and experiencing things. According to them, they said the doll would move on its own. They would hear certain things that would like ghostly noises. The doll would literally move from one room to another room. Sometimes it would go from inside to outside. Got to the point where they're like, okay, they made a specially wooden case for Annabelle, inscribed the Lord's Prayer, and St. Michael's Prayer. And Ed pretty much did a binding prayer over the case, and then they put this doll inside the case to remain it trapped. Now, according to them, they said, listen, you cannot remove this doll from the case because it will cause havoc. Now, according to them, as soon as they put this doll into this case, Annabelle did not move again. It did not do anything, but they say that, okay, no, this demon is trying to lash out. One story according to them, a priest once was visiting the Warrens. I believe they're doing a lecture at Rutgers University. I think that was the university. I could be wrong. And they brought the Annabelle doll with them. And the priest walked up to this doll, picked up the doll, threw it across the room, and he said, "No doll is more powerful than God." And then he drove his car right into a tree. Now, this is actually kind of weird because there's another story that a boyfriend-girlfriend were visiting the museum. The boyfriend started getting a bit agitated. It's like, okay, this is all fucking bullshit. You know, none of this is real. He went up to the Annabelle case and started banging on the glass, saying, "Oh, if you're so powerful, do something to me. Do something. Come on, you're fucking fake. Blah, 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 blah." And according to Ed Warren, he asked this gentleman, "Hey, you're causing disruption. You need to leave." So this guy did, and he was driving a motorcycle with his girlfriend on the back, and he drove his motorcycle right into a tree. But again, you cannot, from what I could find, you cannot find anything. This is all according to Ed Warren. And here's where I'm going to go into a bit more of my thoughts of the Annabelle doll. Now, the young motorcyclist was never, named. Neither Donna or her roommate, whose name was Angela, never came forward and said, hey, never did a book saying, hey, this is our story. I believe if you listen to the Amityville Horror episode, the Lutzes came out with a book on their experiences. They actually were on television programs. They told their story. And I think they actually made some money off of it. Neither of them came forward to say, hey, listen, this is the Annabelle doll. It was ours. This is what we experienced. And, we were screwed up by it. Neither of them have come forward. Neither of them, I believe there's no proof. A lot of skeptics have said that the story was kind of taken from the Robert the Doll, which I'll be covering in part 2. And there's a lot of skepticism around the Warrens themselves too. Now, like I mentioned, if you really want a good breakdown of, I do want to cover the Warrens, but if you want a good breakdown of who the Ed and Lorraine Warren were, a few podcasts cover them good. There is Time Suck, where Dan Cummins actually covers Ed and Lorraine Warren. He gives his own thoughts. Last Podcast on the Left, they do a good job. And also the Haunted Objects podcast, where the Newkirks actually talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they actually talk about their thoughts. When I look at the Annabelle doll case, I do not believe that the Annabelle doll is haunted or possessed. I believe that it is maybe there is some type of energy that, people have fed into the doll because they believe in the lore so much. Like if you listen to my Slenderman, when I covered the Slenderman stabbing case, those two girls believed in Slenderman so much. They believed in the lore, believed in the story so much that, they started to see Slenderman. Now, people say that, you could see it's a tulpa, but again, those two girls had severe mental illnesses that fed into each other, but they believed in that legend. So to me, if you think about it, if people believe in the Annabelle story so much, if they believe that, this doll is dangerous, they believe that, oh my God, there's a demon attached to it and you have to be super careful. I watched a video of Frank Zappa moving the doll because Annabelle, this is true, you can pay $500 to have a spaghetti dinner with Annabelle, see the doll, and it travels around. When they were doing it, they had a priest on standby that was saying prayers. This guy got blessed by a Roman Catholic priest. Before he even touched the doll, he washed his hands in holy water. Then he put gloves on, picked the doll up, and put it in its traveling case. And this doll actually, at one point, this is recent, it was on a tour, and all of a sudden, someone took it out of its case and put it into a prison that's claimed to be haunted. And people are like, oh my God, the Annabelle doll disappeared. You know, Ed and Lorraine Warren warned you guys. Oh my God, people were freaking out. It turned out that was just blown out of proportion, that the doll was actually moved back to the museum and the tour was canceled. I think that, again, that, you know, people feed into the legend of the doll, and, you know, maybe the energy from that or whatever causes them to experience things and have their own experiences. Like, the Newkirk said it best. Like, if you watch their the Unbinding episode, he's like, most objects we get in the museum, like maybe 90% of them, nothing happens to us. We're not saying that it's haunted. Maybe that object had a connection with its owner, and as soon as the owner gave it to us, it broke the connection, and this whatever resided in that object just broke free and moved on, or decided, hey, you know what? I like that person. I like these people. I'm not doing anything. But there's always that 1%, according to Newkirks, that always, you know, bothers them, or, you know, not bothers them, but makes something true. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, I don't want to come down hard on Annabelle. It's just my personal opinion is I believe Annabelle is not haunted. I believe that maybe people are feeding into this legend too much. And, you know, yeah, like, to me, I would visit the Annabelle doll. If I could, I would, but the museum's closed. And just to see, but I don't think this doll's haunted. I don't think there's a demon attached to it. Ed and Lorraine Warren, to me, were very, I'm going to cover them, like I said before, but they're very good flim-flammers. They knew, you know, how to play to their audience. Like, for instance, I mentioned on the Satanic, D&D and the Satanic Panic episode, they bought into the whole D&D bullshit that, oh, you know, if you play D&D, it's a gateway to witchcraft and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And in their museum, they actually have a D&D book that they say is haunted and it has a demonic entity in it and blah, blah, blah. But again, a lot of people say you go into their museum, it's just full of junk. But again, that's my opinion. Yeah, that's the Annabelle doll. And it's a very interesting case. It's a very interesting story. It does have some cool aspects to it. Like, if you watch the Conjuring universe, that you introduce it and the Annabelle doll into it, they actually make it more creepier. And there's actually a funny story. When that movie was going on, I went to Fan Expo Canada. I forgot what year. And I was looking at, like, me and my friends were actually looking at the booths, whatever. It was the first day of the con. We were, like, excited to be there. And there was a booth set up with a human size version of the Annabelle doll. And there were, like, people working in the booth. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, and I kind of was like looking. And at first I thought it was just a dummy. And then I saw the person's stomach move. I'm like, oh, that is a person. The guy's like, and the guy that was running the booth, he's like, oh, you want to go take a picture? And I'm like, is there someone there? He's like, no. Come on, dude, I'll go with you. And he kind of like brings me to the thing. And I'm taking a picture. All of a sudden, I just feel hands on my arm, and I look over, and there's just Annabelle like looking at me, and I kind of got startled. And throughout the con, like, we were like behind another booth, and people were like yelling and screaming. I actually have a really cool picture of that, but that's like a funny way just to end the episode. But yeah. So now it's time for the unusual fact of the day. Here's a fact that you probably don't want to ever know, and it's not useless. It's a useless fact that will probably float in your head now. So in the English language, we have uppercase and lowercase letters. But how did we get that? Well, a long time ago when we had the printing press, when they wanted to print a newspaper or a poster or whatever, it was this apparatus that you had like a pretty much picture a book that was hollow inside. You would get these metal letters, and you would place the pretty much what you wanted to write in this box. You put ink all over it, close it, and then you run the box through the printing press. Now, there was a drawer that they kept all these metal letters in. Now, if they wanted to have a capitalized letter, it was kept on the uppercase of the drawer. If they wanted a lowercase letter, it was kept on the lowercase. So therefore, that's where the term uppercase and lowercase comes from. Yep, I bet you didn't want to know that fact, but now you have a useless fact you can share at parties. So, thanks again for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I am trying to improve this podcast. So again, if you have any helpful criticisms, don't be shy to put it in the review. Please leave a review on Spotify, even leave a review on Apple. This is how I can boost my podcast. And so next episode, part 2, I'll be talking about Robert the Doll, and I'll be having a guest, which is a returning guest actually, which is Kristen from the Parapod Girl podcast. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And we dive into the mystery of Robert the Doll and actually compare it to Annabelle. And it was a very interesting conversation. I already recorded it, so it was very interesting. So again, guys, thanks for listening. And don't forget to stay unusual, my friends.